3, 2.
And welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls, die-hard super fans of our beloved sport, college basketball. This is the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. It is secret scrimmage season, exhibition season, almost the official, real, all caps, SZN, Mr. McKeon. On a scale of 1 to excited, how geeked are you, given where we are at in the grand timeline? October 25th, just a mere stone's throw away from our season tip-off on November 6th.
The sacred timeline, Loki reference. Loki,
Is
anyone? Pretty good show, honestly. Pretty good show. Probably the best of the Marvel shows they're trying out on Disney Plus, I'll say. Yeah, Matt, I'm super excited on a scale of 1 to excited. Every single year, it just surprises me. Like, wow, here we are. We're almost here. Jim, I got a few teams left to rate, but overall, I'm just giddy to watch some ball and see some spreads.
Hey, you got some time to still rate them, Kai. I am under the weather, I would say, and I'm sure people are going to say, you were in Denver, it's a hangover. No, I have flu-like symptoms. We're going to call it a little bit of body ache type stuff, but we're going to battle through. We're talking Big 12, 14 very good teams to discuss, Matthew, so we soldier on.
Yes, indeed. It is the Big 12 plus 2 preview. Props to the Big 12 for adding, going up. I guess they're below the Mendoza line in their namesake. Now they're back above. Conference realignment stinks. We had more news come out today about that. We'll get to that very shortly and sweetly and breeze past it, as we like to do with such, nonsensical stories akin to the FBI coverage that we basically glossed over as well. So yeah, kind of our shtick here on this podcast. We'll stay true to our brand there and just talk about the hardwood implications. But before we do that, let's take a quick shout out to Joe Paskoff, aka Joe Pitti, aka the absolute best and GOAT in the college basketball music intro, outro sphere. Please subscribe to our podcast if you don't already. That's iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, among other platforms. And please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 3MW_CBB. And leave us reviews, Kai, when you do subscribe. And we only allow 5 stars. We actually don't you can't even choose anything below 5. So if you do, you'll be like re-asked to fill out that question. But yeah, you want to be honest, that's fine. We're actually okay with that feedback, but we prefer 5 stars. And we will read those reviews to you back in terms of a question form discussion, a la Kai will do right now. Kai.
I will say also, if you're joining us on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe, do that sort of stuff. Yeah, we should probably pimp that out a little bit more. Yeah, a lot of reviews, 5. In fact, we'll try to go through these pretty quickly. JC Watner, a repeat reviewer here. The Weave brings me hopes and dreams. Hey, boys, amazing podcast. Got the Almanac this year, and it's been a godsend, helping me improve my hoops knowledge. Love to hear that. Was wondering if you guys wanted to talk futures at all for the upcoming season. I feel like this season's wide open, says JC, and there could be some interesting value teams out there. Thank you as always. As always, go Frogs. Don't fade TCU. I do think futures, Jim, can be a part of next week's show, at least a little bit.
Yeah, I think we'll have room going with all Americans and predictions and stuff. We always get into Elite Eight, Final Four, title pick, that kind of stuff. Although there is some, if you have the Almanac, I think we have some picks in there. So
yeah,
might be a little bit spoiled at this stage. But yeah, I write my quick peek at futures every single year. My approach has changed so much from pick 4 or 5 teams I like to get a giant portfolio and exclude teams I don't, that it's a little bit more challenging to write. It's an odder approach. So I'm sort of trying to figure that out. But definitely on the pod next week, we'll discuss futures.
Yeah, Shim, I have subscribed to your mantra there, and I have a very, very hefty portfolio. So it's actually not as fun to discuss all of them because it's like when one of them does well, you can't be like, I picked that one. It's like, well, exactly. Yeah, I took 300 horses. So, I mean, you're just kind of playing the numbers game. Anyway, Kai, back to you.
Your mom is awesome at everything, says. Phenomenal CBB podcast / few compare. Fantastic. Huge fan. Came over from the Titus show. Love that. Love getting Titus to send us some viewers. Thanks, Mark. However, had to go back and listen to all the different episodes from the past. Yeah, that's all right. Keep doing that. Would love to hear y'all's thoughts on the Horizon League for the upcoming season. Well, Matt, you had a hand in writing some of the Horizon teams this season. What are your thoughts?
I love the league. I've written it for our website as well. I think for like one of the leagues I used to hijack on a multi-year basis. So yes, it's a near and dear league to my heart. I think most people have fallen out of favor because it's sort of fallen down the ladder of conference rankings. I think this year is the first of an upswing. I think there's going to be some counterpunching. A lot of bad teams last year will be better. A lot of goodish bad teams should be even better and maybe not just steamrolled in the NCAA tournament as they are every year. Looking at you. Wright State, basically. Although I know the Kentucky last year gave Houston a run for their money, but I think the league at large has multiple contenders that could be very, very feisty. And probably that 14 to 15 seed range. That seems like that's where they're going to probably end up, even though they could be better. Still don't think they've made any sort of drastic improvement up the scales.
Yeah, there's a lot of different teams that can win it. You got Wright State's probably the favorite, I guess, betting wise, but they were not the preseason pick to win it. Cleveland State, Northern Kentucky, Milwaukee, Youngstown State, they're all right in that mix. And you get the bonus of the bottom of the league should not be as terrible as it's been. Green Bay and IUPUI should be competent this year.
Ooey pooey, not as ooey pooey this year, Mr. McKeon.
Agreed. Jeff Wren or Hefe Wren, not exactly sure, says super detailed and fun. Great show and a great example of how to be extremely detailed and nerdy, but also fun when it comes to college basketball. That's basically what we strive for. Well said. Last year, Baylor struggled to get anything put together on the defensive end of the floor. Am I naive to believe that this year might be different with the personnel change? Well, you're in luck, Mr. Wren. We will be discussing Baylor and their defense later on in the pod. Shall we holster that one? We'll say holster that one, and we'll say thank you for the review. Yes? Good.
I'll just say it will be hard for them to be as bad as
that's definitely true.
That's what I'll say.
Johnny Cha-Cha slide, baby. That's the key.
107 defensively last year in Baylor.
Yeah,
Yikes. Bradley Fernandez, 5 more stars for you. I believe Bradley had a review last week as well. Thank you. Keep doing it. If there is one shot in NCAA history you could go back and block, which would it be? For me, it's DeAndre Hunter's late 3-pointer in the 2019 championship. That shot ripped the hearts out of Red Raider fans alike and ripped them to shreds. Jim, what is yours? I think I have mine in mind.
I was thinking the Tyus Stones 3 in the 2015 title game that kind of clinched, but that can't be your answer, Matt. You want it to go in. Why would you block that shot?
Oh, sorry. This was from the perspective of the loser. I misread this question.
Yeah, this is what you want to.
I just wanted to pile on Jim because I was actually with Jim in the same city and laughed like a hyena in his face.
The problem with this one is that Duke probably still wins. This was more like a icing shot, the dagger, not one that actually swung the game. So I don't think I have a great answer. My teams haven't gotten that far. Kai, you're more of a lifelong diehard Mizzou fan. Well, Matt, what's yours? Now that you understand the premise of the question,
I'm thinking
it would have been the Gordon Hayward shot if it went in.
Yes. I mean, that would be like everyone's favorite shot, and then in the small subsect of the world who actually likes Duke, that would be their nightmarish. God, I don't know. I'm going to brainstorm. I have an answer by the. Go ahead, Kai.
Correct answer for Tiger fans is Tyus Edney, the mid-90s UCLA shot that Mizzou real chance to get the Final Four. Now, I don't remember that game because I was 5 years old, but it would have been nice to have a Final Four on the resume if you're a Tiger fan, at least have something up there on the wall, so that's probably the answer.
We got to mention Lamont Butler's pull up against our Owls, kind of crushing.
That's probably one. I wanted to see FAU there. Yeah.
Not, really not impress anyone with my deep vault of basketball history knowledge there, but yeah, that was tough, kind of on our side of the court as well. Yes, Owls deserve better.
Scott Schaefer says Mario Chalmers in the chat. I was actually kind of a KU guy back then. That's a kind of a dark past I have. We don't need to go into it. So I was actually rooting for the Jayhawks in that game, it's strange. Okay, last review here. New York Wahoo 33 says the CBB analysis we need. Love the pod. Perfect mix of X's and O's, numbers, banter, and niche CBB humor. Question: if the preseason AP All-American team, that's Edey, Dickinson, Filipowski, Baycott, and Kullock, were to actually play together on the court, how would you try to make it work? And how would they do? Where would they rank if they played a game against every D1 team in America? Give them any coach you want. Well, I think they're pretty good. Maybe we feel differently, folks. But Jim, what are your thoughts?
I have a hard time figuring it out. Like the defense would be pretty bad on the perimeter. I don't know how you keep people in front, but once they get by you, who's scoring at the rim against that team?
Yeah, rebounds.
Offensive spacing going to be pretty terrible. Kolek might not have all the clever angles and looks that he gets in that Marquette offense, but I said like fringe top 40. There's just too much individual talent to be like awful, but man, the fit, it's bad, Matthew.
1-1-3 zone would be my recommended defensive choice. Doesn't really exist, but I think you'd have to make it work. Just Edey, Dickinson, and Baycott go together like peanut butter, hot sauce, and
Dickinson plays the 2.
Something else on offense.
Dickinson plays the 2, shoots threes. Filipowski shoots threes. He's the 3. I think they can win games.
You have to play zone. You have to play zone on D.
It also doesn't really matter. Like, take as many threes as you want. You're not going to not get an offensive rebound. I think they're going to do okay. I do.
I'm just glad we've gone away from positional pigeonholes. Jim, you mentioned this with the WNBA, or what was it? The first team all WNBA, just all big gals, like all bigs.
Yeah,
so
just put the best 5 players out there. They are theoretically capable of playing. Don't put 10 people on your team. Just put 5 the best basketball players.
All right, that does it for the reviews. Matthew, back to you. Please plug the almanac.
Yes, plug the almanac. That's me telling you, the listener, to buy the almanac if you have not already. It's just a great publication, and we worked on it, and we're trying to update as we go with some of these last second waiver decisions. There's been a lot of delay on more than we thought. I think we kind of saw some coming through the pipe, but then there's been some very slow moving news with that. You bought it last year, buy it again. I think that's I guess I would question why aren't you buying it this year? And then maybe sidebars. If you have a strong and profound reason as to where you were let down, we will try and remedy those concerns, but buy the damn thing. That's all I have.
cbbalmanac.com.
Thank you, Guy. Where to buy it, that's the most important part of the read. Our website update. Our website is the Almanac now and sort of being morphed into the podcast and other platforms. And it's time for Roots Roundup.
Let's do it. We're talking Roots Roundup. That's news and notes. Before we got to pay another bill, Kai, we're talking CVB Analytics.
Yep.
Fantastic website with all kinds of data, deep dive, conditional formatting. Tell the folks all about it.
cbbanalytics.com. It's the best 30,000 foot view of the numbers in college hoops. More than 25 Division I coaching staffs have signed up to use the product this college basketball season. They use it in their scouting, their game planning, but for you, the viewers, the listeners at home, you can use it as a fantastic informational tool for your college basketball watching pleasures, for your gambling escapades. What am I trying to say? Escapades. Your gambling escapades.
That's what Michigan football does, man.
Yes,
that's what they're after.
For your gambling escapades. If you're a diehard college basketball fan, basically, this is a website you will truly love. The graphics, Matthew, I know you're a big graphics guy, percentiles,
looking at them
conditional
now.
Formatting, just a bunch of cool slices you can do with all the data. It truly is a unique site and one that I think every college basketball hoops fan will like. Matthew, your thoughts on this?
Love it. Mentioned this last ad read for last podcast we did, but I've already kind of pulled up the Big 12 last year, or year-to-year changes in the shot diet, which is our new favorite buzzword on this show. Looking at Kansas, looking at who else we're looking at here? West Virginia. I think for people looking at their teams early in the year, especially with all these new players, like from a fan perspective, it's just awesome to see like, wow, this is how our offense has changed, not just like in what we're running, but like, oh, we're taking these shots more and we're either making them or bricking them. Yeah, Kansas is not very surprising. Just a lot of red around the rim, a lot of open looks from the perimeter. Oh, they're really bad shooting in the corner last year. Kind of bad corner shooting three for the Jayhawks. So a little nugget, free nugget from CBB Analytics. Buy it, subscribe.
You wouldn't necessarily know that.
No
idea. Gambling endeavors. Very good. Thank you, Scott, in the chat. Promo code WEAVE is set up if you want to use that to provide $40 off of your subscription fee. If you just want to try it out, I would recommend it. cbbanalytics.com. To Jim.
Bang, bang. There you go. Hey, realignment's just continuing to irk us and lurk at the fringes of hoops discussion. We'll fly through these. Merrimack and Sacred Heart are headed to the Metro Atlantic, the MAAC 2024-25. NEC is in kind of crisis mode. I saw some theories they might have to merge with the MEAC to maintain enough full-time D1 members to get an automatic bid to the tournament. It's a little bit dire for the NEC, or they'll just continue rating that one D2 conference, the NE10, I believe it's called.
Yeah, another team was supposed to come up from there. I forgot the name, like New Haven or something like that. It just seems like that's going to happen.
Yep, they got to keep reinforcing it, but we don't love it. That's more teams to write. Go away. Go down to D2. That's what we want. And then the last rumor is that VCU might go to the American as a basketball only member. This coincides with Army joining the American as a football only member. So VCU would potentially be able to join there, leaving the A10 a little bit in the lurch. But again, A10 would still have 14 teams. It's not like that league is going to tumble out of relevance even without VCU.
VCU not having football is weird. Just kind of an offshoot.
They don't have football.
Right. I know. It's just odd that
they should.
Like a big school. Lots
Huge
of students.
school.
Feels like it has good money. Like Richmond has football, but VCU doesn't. I'm sure someone from Richmond will have a very clear answer. Please tell me why. I have no idea.
There you go. Recruiting news. Only one to mention here in the class of 2024. 4-star point guard Boogie Fland headed to Kentucky, a top 40 recruit. only 4-star per 24/7 Sports this past week. I think there are a lot more to be announced soon. I believe the Montverde coach said he's got 3 5-stars announcing in the next week. So there will be more news on the horizon there. But just Fland to Kentucky. Will he play for John Calipari? Ooh, we'll find out. Will he still be employed?
Yeah, probably.
Yep. Most likely. All right, transfer news. Rodney Rice left Virginia Tech. Now, if you listen to our ACC preview, kind of highlighted how important he was for them as actual wing athleticism, defense. Couture's a pretty solid defender, but they're just really thin now. MJ Collins steps into a bigger role. We're mild alarm bells on Virginia Tech, Matthew. Where do you stand on them now?
Yeah, I just think Mike Young's too good to where I'm not gonna, pull the fire alarm with this team. But yeah, love Rodney Rice, just never healthy, just a bummer of a start to his collegiate career, like a DC local high school legend. I hope he finds greener pastures at some point. Yeah, already in the portal, and we'll see where he ends up. But get healthy, stay healthy, be great.
Yeah, that was supposed to be a huge win for them on the recruiting trail. DeMatha, bringing that guy to Virginia Tech, Mike Young getting that pipeline flowing. Unfortunately, kind of derailed early there. Injury news. Mark Freeman for Morehead State. Wow, you say, why is Morehead State in this section here? But he's the reigning OVC player of the year. He is not some slouch, some just random starter for the team that is the preseason favorite just about everywhere you look. Freeman is out for the year, most likely. Maybe he could return late. It seems like that'd be a waste of eligibility. But that really opens up the OVC. I think Morehead was the fairly clear favorite, but now you can make a case for a lot of different teams. Matt, your SIUE Cougars, I'm sure, are high on your mind with Rayshawn Taylor recovering from his own injury.
Yeah, get healthy, Rayshawn. I was looking at some OVC action today, just a wide open league. And Western Illinois, Kai, our beloved Leathernecks, are a new member there. So yeah, should be a fun who the heck knows whatever happens.
Yep. Yes, indeed. And then Sean Bairstow of VCU and Ish Masu from Georgetown, both in that DMV area, both out 6 to 8 weeks. Pretty tough for both squads here that don't really have a ton of depth, especially proven depth. Georgetown going to be down to 8 scholarship players for a rather extended period of time. Jaden Epps, how many jump shots can you take? We will find out. And then for VCU, Bairstow, obviously very familiar with Ryan Odom, having played for him at Utah State. Kai, you wrote VCU. How big of a blow is this? What kind of depth do they have behind him?
Enormous blow. They have very little depth because Joe Bamasil, his transfer waiver was denied as well, in addition to some other guys we've seen. So it's a huge deal. They're down to 9 scholarship players, I think, with Bairstow out of the lineup. It's bad news, Bears.
Yep. Yes, indeed. And speaking of those denials, Raekwon Battle at West Virginia denied his waiver. I honestly was under the impression he was going to be a grad transfer, considering how long he's been in school. So this was a rude awakening for me, and I had to adjust my West Virginia rating. Matt, it's bad news. They also likely have Noah Farrakhan sitting out this year. A lot of unproven players up and down that lineup for Josh Eilert, who is in that interim role. Not sure he's going to get the job quite like Rodney Terry did.
West Virginia, yeah, just a circus of an offseason. Well, yeah, we'll talk about them because that's the focus of this podcast.
Circus indeed. Other random news and notes: Mackenzie Mbako got arrested at Indiana. This is ridiculous. Stupid arrest. I mean, you don't resist arrest. I don't recommend that, but it's not like he did something terrible. He was refusing to leave the line at Taco Bell.
Let the young man let the young justice for it, Mackenzie. Kai.
Pat wanted to know on Twitter, what are our go-to orders at Taco Bell? I get
gordita crunch for sure.
2 cheesy gordita crunches. I usually throw in another taco as well in there.
I'm pretty simple. I get a chicken quesadilla, usually a couple of soft shell tacos. I love the beefy crunch burrito, BCB. It had the flaming hot Fritos in there when I lived near one in college, but I believe it is no more, unfortunately.
That's also very good breakfast. One of the more underrated breakfast joints.
Breakfast Crunchwrap rocks.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Taco Bell.
All right. Other news and notes. Nelly Jr. Joseph just arrived in Albuquerque. I honestly wasn't fully aware that he was having this student visa issue coming back from Nigeria. He played in the global games this summer for an African team that played against Kentucky up in Canada, but they finally get him to Albuquerque. Going to be massive for them, starting center. Maybe this makes them slow out of the gate, Matthew. New Mexico, a team that is kind of loaded with talent, but we do know that Junior Joseph is familiar with the Patino family, having just played for Rick at Iona.
Yeah, very weird situation here. I think we all like that team, but there are some pretty critical new pieces. And NJJ, obviously a massive cog up front. But hey, maybe the guards just do their fun little dueling banjos thing that they did last year, and they're just good no matter who plays early on.
Yep. Yes, indeedy. And then, of course, exhibition and scrimmage results are pouring in. Can always decide how much you want to overreact to these. I actually, Kai and Matt, I'm going to holster some takes here because I will be on a certain other podcast coming up soon. This is going to be all about overreactions about this, and I think people will hopefully enjoy that. But Kai and Matt, anything you want to get off your chest based on what you've seen so far? Matt, I got to ask you about your FAU Owls getting spanked.
I feel like people are looking for an official statement on behalf of my Owls losing by 20 plus or 16. I think it was 16.
20 plus
handled
apparently.
Is what they said. Yeah.
Without Elijah Martin. But
Mhm.
FAU is a team that's built on depth and interchangeability. I wouldn't think that would have mattered. And it could be possible that UNC just could be really good this year. So that's how I'm moving the goalpost to defend that one, guys.
Overreacting. So you're overreacting to these.
Yes.
Yeah,
all of them.
Don't put too much stock. Several teams struggling with D2 teams, though, will make me kind of raise my eyebrows, but it's kind of hard to know with personnel, right? Personnel is the key. Like UCLA lost to Santa Clara, Jim, but they're missing 3 of the best players.
Yep,
Context.
all 3 international guys, or 3 of the 4 international guys, and you don't know like shooting splits in these. I saw San Diego State got down big at halftime to Arizona State, but they were 4 for 23 from deep in the first half.
Yeah,
it's
tough.
Right, some of this stuff you got to dig into the weeds. Kai and gambling, we love misleading final scores, so we're not able to decide or decode if these are misleading or not. So mostly grain of salt. Gonna wait till these seasons really start. George has joined us for those listening on the audio platform. If you're watching visually, you do see George in Matt's lap. So if you get a
gone for 3 days, so I just had to say hi to the guy.
There you go.
George, we'll get hangs later. Okay, we'll get hangs later. Yep.
All right, that is it for Roots Roundup. Unless you guys really want to dwell on any other exhibition results, Kai, I'll quick open it up to you.
No, but relevant to this podcast, Texas lost to Colorado, and that's our lead in. Matthew, go.
Tech-ish, the Texas 2 stuff. Yes, the Lone Star State houses many of the fine programs of the Big 12 plus 2, which we will now dissect in entirety here. For the All Caps Almanac, Mr. Rob Dowster had the privilege and honor to write this preview. So we will be kind of talking through them in the order in which he ranked them. And as I look through them, guys, I think he did a fine job. But again, we will make fun of Rob. We'll put him in a locker on a few of these placements. 14 teams. It's a league that's been
weird.
Regarded as the best in the country because it's just been awesome, but also because it's only had 10 teams and you don't really ever have any dead weight at the bottom. And when you go to 14, it certainly adds the risk of adding dead weight, but man, and we'll get to the newcomers here, but there's not a lot of dead weight coming across from the Americans. So this league could just be as good with even more thump at the bottom and the middle tier. It should be fun for Kansas and Houston fans at the top of the totem pole. There are no easy outs, and Kelvin Sampson talked about this ad nauseum in Big 12 Media Day, just like how we have to get used to as a program, not winning every game by 30. It's like we have to go on the road and lose 6 conference games, and hey, that's a pretty awesome season probably.
Yeah. I won't make you guys tell on your ratings here, but KenPom has every team inside the top 75. Even with 14, it is still going to be a gauntlet. There's no team down like, sorry, Pat, I won't say your Cardinals, but there's no walkover squads in this league, no matter what. And the travel got a lot harder. I will also mention that with a Florida team added, a Utah team added, Cincinnati up over by West Virginia. There's a lot more travel, tougher trips that could only increase home court, which is usually super strong in this league.
Yeah, it's a coastal league, as all the mega conferences are. It's shame to those of us purists. It's annoying how all the coaches defend the league in the media days, and the commissioner comes on and talks about how they're whatever. I just like Johnny Dawkins, like, in the NBA, you have to make all these. It's like I don't want to watch NBA basketball. I want to watch college basketball. But
that's right.
All that aside, this league rocks. Let's break it down. Let's start with the players first here, and there are some stars in this league. First and foremost, Max Asmus, the decorated, highly sought after transfer from Oral Roberts, comes back.
These are all conference teams, by the way.
Yeah, this is Rob's all conference team per the almanac.
So Kai has some issues. So he wants a caveat up front before there's any judgments raised here.
No, it just sounded like you were just listing players.
Okay. Sorry. No, we're gonna do all conference teams. The best 10 players in this conference. And one of them is undisputably Max Asmus, former Dallas kid. I like the story in general. Kind of coming back home to play for the flagship program in his state. I think he has an approval rating of college basketball fans of like 100. So I hope he rocks there. LJ Cryer going to Houston, kind of the intra-conference transfer, we'll call it. Baylor to Houston there, get to play against his old team. And then for Baylor, Walter, who is voted the best pro prospect by the coaches. He's a freak athlete. We'll talk about him. He's going to be an absolute star. Seems like Baylor and Scott Drew continue to round up these guys year in, year out there. Emmanuel Miller for TCU got Rob's vote for first teamer. And then Hunter Dickinson, college basketball's villain, KU's newest toy. We'll see what happens with that. And the player that scares Big 12 coaches the most. I think I agree with that, right? I mean, we'll see what he does in Bill Self's system.
And then he scares Bill Self the most too, because you don't know what he's going to say on his random podcast appearances, tweets. The quote he had, we discussed a little bit on the media day where he's like, good, I want to be number one so everybody knows how much better we are than them. It's like, you scored 0 points in a KU jersey, my man. So wait and see.
He wants all the smoke, and he will be getting it in high doses when he travels across the country in this newly revamped league. But his teammate, his bookend, we'll call it Kai, DeJuan Harris, a much less loud-spoken, soft-spoken point guard, cool customer. I love DeJuan Harris, by the way. Second teamer, Tamin Lipsey, Iowa State, another dogged defender at the point of attack. He makes the second team there. Tyler Perry, Jim's boy, the House of Rain, debuting.
First teamer. You kidding?
You got to put Tyler Perry on first team. Rob Doster, he's an absolute star. I saw who's their coach? My goodness, I'm an idiot.
Jerome Tang.
Thank you, Jerome Tang, the national coach of the year last year. Called him the best shooter he's ever coached. So yeah, Perry can stroke it. We're going to see how fun he is. And I like my guy, Milos Uzov from Oklahoma, getting second team nomination from Rob. Maybe a stretch to some. Passes Matty Cox's eye test. That's all that matters. And then Jawan Roberts for Houston is his last. If you don't know that name, you will. Just think Houston, big guy, best of the bunch. Always a pretty good bet to have a good year. Thoughts, reactions, gentlemen, to this list of dudes?
Perry is the one for me. Would definitely have him on the first team. I would probably sneak Pop Isaacs on there if Texas Tech's as good as I think they'll be. Just he's going to be the probably late shot maker type guy for that McCaslin system. Maybe a Jalen Bridges. I don't know. You can go a lot of different directions here with 14 teams, and they're all good. Pretty easy to find good players here, Kai.
Yeah, it's a tough little exercise. I would not put Walter on the first team. I would not put Miller on the first team. I'd put Perry up there for sure. I'd probably put Harris on there too, honestly. I think he's super underrated. McCullough probably deserves to be on one of these teams, but you can go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, always tough to kind of decide how much you want to stack the deck in favor of the preseason favorites. But anyway, no major qualms for me. Yeah, I think Perry's going to be awesome. But anyway, player of the year, Hunter Dickinson. Defensive player of the year, DeJuan Harris. Coach of the year, Grant McCaslin. Shoot 'em up Red Raiderland out in Lubbock, making his debut. I think we all like that team. We'll get to why in a second. First, the overall standings per Rob. He went Kansas 1, Houston 2. Kansas voted the hardest team to prepare for by Big 12 coaches. Houston, the best developmental staff. I agree wholeheartedly with both those superlatives. And I think by all accounts, the clear-cut top two teams in this league, Mr. McKeon, you would agree emphatically correct.
I agree. I have them in a different order, though. I have Houston number one.
Jim, are you a Beaker over Cougar, man?
I have KU number one. I do think I won't say exactly why, but I do have Kansas at the top.
I do too, reluctantly. And that's where it starts to get a little bit interesting. Texas third, Baylor fourth, Kansas State fifth was how Rob started to shake it out. And then Texas Tech at sixth, voted the sleeper team by Big 12 coaches. Not hard to see why, given one of their brethren, one of the best, is joining the league. Iowa State seventh, TCU eighth, Oklahoma State seems to be completely forgotten this season, ninth, Cincinnati, newest member of the club, 10th, Oklahoma 11th, West Virginia 12th, BYU, the Soaring Mormons 13th, and then poor Johnny Dawkins and the boys of Orlando, the Knights in 14th. Knights of Columbus. If there's one team that maybe could be a patsy, which I don't think there will be, it will be UCF. But again, even UCF has some real upside this year. And BYU at 13, I think even has upside too. So yeah, all in all, I think the league just got better because it added more quality. And it added another elite title contender.
The one team that could have the disaster scenario where they end up real bad is West Virginia. Like they're incendiary, kind of volatile. We'll talk about it more when we get there, but they're the one that I think could, like UCF, I think has a fairly stable floor. I think West Virginia's floor could tumble.
Yep.
Agreed. Just so many unknowns. To Kansas, Mr. McKeon. I mean, what's not to say? I mean, this team is coached by one of the best in the business, as voted on by his peers and as established by us. We like his roster. When you have the pieces they have coming back, proven winners, DeJuan Harris, Kevin McCullough, sophomore breakout obvious candidate, KJ Adams. And then I think a soon-to-be villain in this league.
Adams not a sophomore, is he?
I think he's listed as.
Junior.
It's his third year. It's his third year.
Yeah. I think this is going to be he kind of has a breakout last year, but I think he's going to be a real beast this season. And like I said, Nick Timberlake, potential villain coming in from Taos and sharpshooter. The depth is thin, Jim. That's kind of where I'll kick it over to you. Thin. They lost Marcus Adams to some NIL stuff, Arterio Morris, some just poor decision-making, to put it lightly. And obviously Jalen Wilson, ready to go pro. That's where I kick it to you. Thoughts on the bench? Is there enough that's coming in off the pine for the Jayhawks?
That's one of the ultimate questions with them. It's the bench depth and shooting. Now, I don't think they're going to need that much depth come the postseason. They'll go 7 deep in the tournament and be just fine. But do Furphy and Jackson, Parker Brown give them enough during the regular season to stay at the top of a super, super competitive league? Kai, the one thing that I'm excited about is just the way Self is not the one thing. There's a lot to be excited about here. But the way Self adjusts his offense, like the last 3 years, their post-up rates are 326th, 137th. I assume we see it skyrocket back up this year with Dickinson in there. They've got a real true post threat to throw the ball to. Just will the floor be cramped? That's the question. Only Timberlake, a super respected shooter at this level. McCullough and Harris, I think people more or less are willing to take the risk with them.
Yeah, there's lots to like here, Matt. The depth, I've questioned the depth, but Self played, the third least amount of bench minutes in the country last year, and they were just fine. So you could say that's not a huge deal. Their starting 5 is fantastic. Their top 4, I'll say, is unbelievable, right? Harris, McCullough, Adams, who I think is incredible and super underrated, and then Dickinson. How does Dickinson affect the team? We kind of already alluded to it. He's already chirping in the media. Does that fly at Kansas? I'm not really sure. Maybe it doesn't matter, but it's something. KU hasn't had this type of like a controversial player that I can remember that's been like very like outspoken in the media, at least in these last few years here. And yeah, I have question marks past top 4, Matt. Timberlake, he's solid, but I'm not sure he's a home run necessarily to translate at this level. And then Jackson and Furphy, they're hyped. They're freshmen. Up front, you're thin too. They're going to play a lot of Adams at the 5, but I think it does question me a little bit with them, and hence I have them behind Houston.
Yeah, Parker Braun, your former Mizzou defector, comes back from Santa Clara. I think he actually has to play some real minutes. Marco Jackson is my guy on this team. It doesn't seem like he is beloved by the staff or local reports, but that's kind of my guy to pop as sort of a breakout dude. Kevin McCullough's got the back issues. Furphy's got some injuries. It just feels like an old veteran NBA team that's not going to make it through 82 games. But hey, it's college basketball. You don't have to play 30, and you have to be at your best when it matters most. And it's Bill Self. So I don't really feel I have to explain why I have the number 1 over Houston for those reasons.
Harris, McCullough, Adams, probably the best point, wing, big defender trio in the entire country. Like
defensively, yes.
Ridiculous. They're number 1 in Ken Palm next year preseason for a reason on that end. Those 3 are devastating.
And Dickens is a pretty good shot blocker. I mean, their defense really could be really good.
I agree. 100%. Again, I'm going to need some fresh legs, but I agree with that prognosis. Speaking of teams that know how to defend, it's basically all Houston's done. They've wrote the manual on how to defend at the absolute best level. They bring back 3 starters from last year. Jamal Shed, the best, if you want to say best on-ball defender in the country, is DeJuan Harris. I think Mr. Shed would have a word with you. Another dogged two-way stud there. LJ Cryer, not a good defender from Baylor, but does it matter because he's coached by Kelvin Sampson, Kai? He can't shoot the crap out of it, as can his fellow transfer import Damian Dunn from Temple. Just seeing Houston with 2 shooter skill guys in the lineup will be different. But when you have Shed at the point of attack and you have Jawan Roberts and Javier Francis at the back end, just long multi-year Houston assembly line big men, Arsenal off the bench, freak athlete, it still has the Houston DNA, just with a sprinkle of finesse this season.
Yeah, and Sampson, for my money, best coach in the country. He built Houston to this juggernaut. They've been top 10 basically on both ends for 3 straight years, and maybe doesn't continue in the Big 12, but I tend to think it does. Arsenal might start, and Sharp might start. I think they bring Dunn off the bench. They could even bring Cryer off the bench. I know overseas they were starting Arsenal and Sharp together, I believe. Their defense is going to be awesome. The backcourt can now score. Front court, super tough. Just a huge, really, really, really high floor. And I have confidence in Sampson winning, and even at this level.
Defense is just ridiculous. Like they have somehow invented the way to break a contesting opponent jump shots. Like every year, the 3-point percentage defense is great. Last year, they're number one in the country in 2-point jumper percentage defense. So like the way they challenge, the way they make you uncomfortable, it's just a real problem. Teams aren't able to score against them. The one question I have is, are they going to be able to get more easy buckets compared to last year? They're 352nd in rim frequency on offense. A lot of Sasser kind of pull up jumpers. Even Shed doesn't get all the way to the bucket that well. And he's not a great shooter, but Dunn kind of helps solve that problem. He's a get to the rim, get to the foul line type of guy. And then Roberts, Francis, and I love JoJo Tugler, the big long-armed freshman top 100 guy. So yeah, it's high floor with also some ceiling access too, as long as Cryer doesn't derail the defense.
Yeah, and I actually think if they want to still be overly jump shot reliant, again, looking for nitpicks here, they're going to crash the glass. They're a stone cold lock to be a top 20 offensive rebounding team. They get their misses, they put them back. It's almost just an effective avenue to scoring efficiently. Kelvin Sampson, I mean, what's there to say about the guy? Kai touched on it.
Offensive rebounding,
trying to find other
4-3-2-2 last 4 years.
So I mean, Juwan, I guess if I had to find one, like Juwan Roberts, like love the dude. He's only 6'7". Like he's not like a super tall, imposing guy, but like I just don't think it matters. His wingspan's so long and he's just so effective positionally. It's like, okay, do they have a true five? It's like, yeah, that's him. It's him, Matt. Don't ignore the roster listing. He's awesome. And the eye test bears that out. Let's stay in Texas. We're going to Austin, where Rodney Terry has a lot of expectations this season. Gobs of talent returning. Max Asmus, the prodigal son, returning home. But there are some question marks, Mr. McKeon, some major injuries up front. Dylan Disu, who was a standout in the tournament, a big key to why they made that big run. He's not fully healthy, hasn't been in a couple of years. They brought in Caden Sheedrick from UVA, another big body up front. But I mean, I think on paper, you love what you see at the top of the roster. The depth worries me. And then I guess if we're still doing the Rodney Terry coaching concerns worrying me. I don't know. What do you think? You see more depth, it sounds like.
Yeah, I actually kind of like the depth. The bench is
I guess
solid.
I do too.
A lot of length, pretty deep.
I retract.
I do not trust Rodney Terry. Like I've said multiple times, I'll reiterate it now. He took over the number 6 team in the country and he basically maintained it. Kudos, I guess. He had one of the oldest teams in the country last year, and he was mediocre at best over 3 years at UTEP after a couple of good years at Fresno. So the roster's too good to be bad. Asmus, Hunter, fantastic 1-2. Mitchell, everyone thinks he's breaking out. The question, of course, is what you said, Shedrick and Disu, their health. That worries me quite a bit. I can see them underachieving, Jim. I can see them slipping down the standings.
Yeah, they think those guys are going to be fine by early in the year, but it sounds like Disu's not even cleared for contact yet, which is rather alarming as we're 10 days from the opener. And the interior defense kind of drops off fast. There is not a lot of interior depth with this team. A little more in the perimeter, but
correct.
Up front, Onyema from UTEP is not a Big 12 player. He's just not. So they've got to get those guys healthy, but they've got a really incredible group of defenders too, with Tyrese Hunter, Dylan Mitchell, and if Disu and Shedrick are out there, defense has a great route to being excellent. I just have some questions about the offense. Last year, they were 343rd in rim and 3 rates. That was Timmy Allen, Marcus Carr, Serge Rice. They had a bunch of great shot makers in that range. Asmus, awesome shot maker, but he's more the mid-court variety. Are they going to get enough good quality offensive possessions where they're not bailed out by individual talent? We'll see.
Yeah, I guess I look at this. I mean, you're right. A lot of guards. I mean, even like the Weaver kid from UTA, he was a really good player for them last year. I think he's going to get some minutes. Ithiel Horton.
Brock Cunningham, the Trey Galloway of the Big 12.
Got to find him. Who would you rather have, Kai? Brock or Trey? There's the right answer here.
I'd rather have Trey.
Good boy. I was testing you.
I don't want
either. What's your guys' worry level on Asmus at this level? I mean,
I think
Duke athleticism really bothered him last year. Defensively, he's a problem, I think, but there's enough good defenders around him that it helps.
I like him too much, Jim. I can't. I absolved myself from saying anything negative about him. So there you go. You can read
I think I think he'll be good, really good.
Yeah. Also, Serge Rice was a stud last year. I think one of the most underrated losses of any player in this league. But I digress. We move on again, staying in the Lone Star State. Scott Drew, the big bad Baylor Bears, although they were not so big and bad on the defense end last season. I think that's pretty much the overplayed narrative is like, okay, Baylor's awesome offensively. They have been. They lost their defensive mojo after the core of night or all night Davian Mitchell and Mark Vital and those dudes. Off night, all night. Sorry. All night. You will have an off night. All night. What am I saying? So yeah, Ray J. Dennis comes in from Toledo. Jaden Nunn comes in from VCU. Jacoby Walter is the obvious breakout star, freshman, do-it-all, two-way stud. Jalen Bridges was awesome down the stretch last season. I think he's kind of an underrated X factor. And Johnny Cha-Cha is back, and apparently, Jimbo, he's in better shape than he has been since the injury. That was a key nugget I took away from Big 12 Media Day. Kind of the heart and soul of the team. I still get emotional when he got back, reintegrated with the squad. I just think he's kind of like the rah-rah spirit animal of this group. Langston Love's still back making jumpers. Although I believe he's hurt. We think he's hurt until conference play, right?
For Mr. Doster's preview in the Almanac. Yes.
All right, we're going to update that and confirm. But Jimbo, Baylor, is there hope on the defensive end? Can the offense still be as dope with the changeover in personnel?
Yeah, I mean, the guards are bigger. That certainly helps. Drew pretty adamantly says Walter's a two-way player. Jaden Nunn is a very good defender. Ray J. Dennis has more size. He's not exactly coming from a good defensive team, but you pair that with a bigger backcourt with a healthier JTT up front. I kind of trust that to rebound up. I don't know if they're going to be top 20 like Ken Pom has in preseason, but I do think they will be a lot better. I mean, the last time he had a bad defense, they were 75th in 2019. They were 4th the next year. So he's shown the ability Scott Drew has to reshuffle things. Kai offensively, mega jump shot reliant, last nationally in rim frequency. Like they just don't get easy buckets. Maybe the shot making is good enough still. I hope they post up Ray J. Dennis, kind of the invert the floor.
I think Dennis helps that. So Dennis helps it, right? Kind of thicker, can get more inside. I don't know.
They're going to need to help it because they don't have the shot making that they did last year, quite to the same level.
We've seen MAC Player of the Year struggle in better leagues, and Dennis was solid at Boise, but was he even a first-team all-conference player in the Mountain West? I know he's gotten better. I think he's incredibly overrated. I think people think he's like first-team all-conference level. Maybe he is, but I have questions. And Jaden Nunn, I love Jaden Nunn on VCU. He's not incredible. He's not an elite player in the Big 12. And again, Walter, lots riding on him being good right away. There's a chance he's not. Bridges and JT should be good up front. I agree. The defense is way better, but the offense, I don't think they're 7th in the country like Ken Pom has. I think offense could actually maybe take a step back. It's a really kind of a youngish team, especially without Langston Love being in there, a little bit thinner. The coaching basically props up a roster that I think, Matt, isn't as scary as past Bears teams.
I agree. I think it just speaks to the proven now institutional success of Drew. Like, despite all of the disastrous defensive things last year, they were still arguably the third best team in this conference, and lost to Creighton, who was objectively like an awesome team in the tournament. So like, I think the floor is oddly high, despite there being reasons for it to be low, because it's
always high. It's got,
you know what I mean? I just think the standard is just like,
it's high.
Yeah, the talent they have, it's just really good. So I don't know. A lot of concerns I think we kind of talked through, but generally I think I come back to my bottom line, like, yeah, Scott Drew's just been really good. So, and I think we have a drop off here to 5, maybe not. I think the EMAW fans who are still bloodthirsty, gnawing us after we just completely botched their prognostication last season. Sorry, Purple Kitten fans, but we're in this season. At least I am. Tyler Perry can shoot the crap out of it. Are there depth concerns? Yeah, maybe. DeQuan Tomlin, I know, didn't play in the exhibition. Is he going to be healthy? But he's going to be a star when he breaks out, and basically already has.
And who'd they lose to in the exhibition, the scrimmage?
You can mention, I don't, SMU. The Pony Express, gotcha. I don't know if I like that sign. Jim, where do you stand?
Yeah, and K-State's foreign tour scores were a little shaky when compared to teams that played the same competition as them. Like Arizona blew out a team by 50 that K-State beat in the last 2 minutes or something like that. So I think there's some warning signs. I know they haven't been fully healthy. They were 24-12 against the spread last year, top 10 team in the country. Tang was clearly excellent taking over. I will not be making the same mistake doubting them again, especially with my guy Perry at the forefront, Kai. I just think he's a true star, MFer, winner, shot maker. They definitely lose a little bit on the wing with Johnson being replaced by Kaluma. That's a clear downgrade, but it's still a very solid roster, maybe a little more depth than it had last year if the freshmen are good. And I just trust Tang. So I have him 6th, not 5th, but right around in this, rather surefire NCAA tournament team level.
The margins are thin, but I got him down at 8th. I don't have him 5th, Matt. I don't know if you do, but Tang's a great coach. I just think he struck gold with Noel and Johnson. That's like best case scenario last season. Johnson getting all the way back. to his SEC Player of the Year level, and Noel becoming just a fireball. I think Perry's awesome, can be just as effective as Noel, who was an All-American, by the way. So it's still kind of a leap to take, but there is no Johnson replacement. There's none. Kalum was overrated. We've talked about it. Tomlin's good, but not quite the same player. I'm worried about Quez Glover being in the locker room. Chemistry guy seems like a wonky fit, in my opinion. They're not as good as last year, but they're going to be really, really good. I can just see them sliding a bit, is what I'll say. A lower floor than last year, I think.
I might go higher floor because I think the role players are underrated. Like, Nguessen's like a really solid interior garbage guy. I think got overlooked last year. He had some injuries.
Keontae Johnson was so important. I think people really underrate that loss.
And they got like McNair like yesterday, basically. I think he's going to I think he might matter. I don't know. So again, maybe I'm grasping for straws. I think there's actually enough here to
Tang's awesome.
My duck. And Tang can coach.
Yeah.
Do we worry there's like a year two, like people understand the playbook now? There's a little more, there's less of that element of surprise that caught people last season. I don't know. Again, I'm tired of
there.
I'm not either. I
awesome home court tournament team with a bullet. Just think other teams have higher ceilings right now.
Speaking of awesome home courts, I might even say it's the best in the conference, and people are not going to be happy with that. I think Texas Tech is the toughest place to go in and get a W. Kai, Lubbock.
I'll disagree.
Okay, that's fine.
Probably number
this
one.
This year's sleeper team. Nah, I think Lubbock's the hardest place to win. This year's sleeper team, because Grant McCaslin coaches there. He also has a pretty good roster. I think, again, we talked about this in some of our offseason stuff. A ton of unsung heroes, underrated portal dudes that you can just kind of, it's evidence that Grant McCaslin knows what he's doing and knows what he wants in his personnel, because he got guys that I think were overlooked, i.e. Warren Washington, great interior rim protector, sort of at the epicenter of what his defense will be, which will surely be awesome. Can they score? I think is where people are going to ask questions. Jim mentioned Pop Isaac, sort of a skilly, finesse shooter. Thule guy, probably going to lead this team in scoring. Some athletes in Darian Williams and Devin Cambridge come in from out west as well. Joe Toussaint for West Virginia. I would transfer a point. It kind of feels like an island of misfit toys, but I like all the toys, if that makes sense.
The defense is going to be so elite, like so elite. Washington and Cambridge made Arizona State's defense awesome last year, and they're just going to solidify it under McCaslin. Williams is long. I think Toussaint can defend as well. I know he played for
good
Iowa,
on-ball guy, for sure.
He's a good on-ball defender, yeah. I think McCaslin was a top 5 hire this offseason. I really am high on him as a coach. I think Isaacs does break out on offense. I really like the bench, actually, Jim. There's no stars, but it's really, really deep. I do think this team overachieves. I got them 7th. They're right in the mix between teams that could finish 3rd and down to pick a number.
Yeah. To your point on the bench guys, it's not like, all right, we desperately need Lamar Washington to, because like, no, we can, we've got other options, kind of piece it together with Kyron Lindsey, DeMarion Williams, Kerwin Walton. And the defensive foundation with McCaslin in charge, and Matt, they brought in, is his name Smart from Carleton, the big time coach up in Canada, who's apparently brilliant too. I think there's just going to be too much competence on the sideline, and there's enough pieces on the court that this team's going to be rock solid, pain to play against, maybe just not an ultra high ceiling because of the offense.
Yeah, they brought in his other 2 assists from North Texas, and then I think another dude from Bryce Drew, who used to work for the so like it's probably one of the smartest guys in the room type of coaching staff. We'll see how quickly it does mesh, but it certainly feels a lot like Mark Adams' first year, where it was, it does have a defensive identity. People are going to question the offense, but then they just kind of overachieved and caught people by surprise. I can see that following a similar script this season. And that's why the coaches voted this the sleeper team in the Big 12. To number 7, to Ames, Iowa, our beloved Cyclones, Mr. Otzelberger and company. A lot of youth, Jimbo, this season. That's kind of the change of identity for what was a very, very old team and oftentimes disgusting to watch on offense, but they're built on defense. That's their backbone. They still will be. I think there's a nice infusion of offensive skill here, but is the defense going to be as good with how young they are? I guess that's my opening concern. I will toss your way.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice they still have the on-ball ace in Lipsy. You go back a couple of years, they've been fantastic there. I think Keyshawn Gilbert is a pain in the butt to play against defensively as well. So they've got these guys that are either really good defensively, like those, and then offensively, Momcilovic coming in is a big-time scorer, freshman. Pavletsky from Wofford is kind of all offense. He's not going to stop you defensively. Curtis Jones, maybe more offense. So I think Otzelberger's challenge will be balancing guys that are really good on one end with his lineups. Don't play like all the good offensive guys and stink on defense. Don't do the same vice versa on the other end. But the one number I love, number one nationally in preventing rim attempts defensively, like that kind of framework structure holds up. They've still got a couple shot blockers here, no Shun, but Rob Jones and Hassan Ward, I think will keep people away from the rim, Kai, and that keeps the floor high.
Yeah, I'm higher on them. I got him 5th in the Big 12. I'm fully convinced Otzelberger's the man. He's established a culture. Lipsey's so underrated. The dude just wins. There's winners in college basketball. Tamin Lipsey is one of those guys. It's like, how'd they win that game? It was Tamin Lipsey. They have glue guys galore, real upside with the talent like Baloo and Momcilovic, real true upside there in talent, which I think is kind of lacked on Iowa State's rosters last couple of years. This is like blue blood talent we're talking about, not just like gritty defensive guys, and that's it. And they're a lock to be great on defense. The offense can be just good enough, Matt, but the Jones and Ward combo underneath is underrated for a defensive front court. So yeah, I'm pretty high on them.
Keyshawn Gilbert, Kai, St. Louis's finest, coming back, a little reunion after a little a quick stint, cup of coffee, UNLV. Yeah. Hassan Ward is still lurking. Like, yeah, there's a lot of solid players, right? Like, kind of, we just talked about, like the same type of thing with Texas Tech. A lot of very solid basketball players, very well coached. They know who they are. High floor. I know probably you don't want to hear low ceiling, Iowa State fans, but I do kind of think it's a little low ceiling. It's maybe a little bit higher because of the offensive upside with the talent you have in your youth, but I still think the system does feel a little bit lowish ceiling.
Someone in the chat, I forgot who it was, sorry, said, will this be the first year Iowa State is a top 100 offense underneath Otzelberger? They've been 171 and 114. Thanks. Ken Palm's got him 79 to start the year.
Yeah, I mean, he had awesome offenses at South Dakota State. He's capable, but that was when he had Mike Dahm going against some defenses.
Not walking through that door. Man, how can you imagine?
I think there's enough juice on that offense to be top 100 this year.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think it'll take some time to cook, but I can see through my squinty eyes some potential upside. Just still not all the way that high. We continue to number 8, back to Texas Christian, TCU, Jamie Dixon. Another great year for Mr. Dixon as he continues to set a new standard at a program that basically has had no history of success because he can coach basketball. Their identity was very much lots of length, defense galore. We're going to run in transition because in the half court, we were not very good. That's basically what they came at you with last season. In the portal moves, Mr. McKeon, they made some upgrades to that shot-making department. Jameer Nelson from Delaware, Avery Anderson from Oklahoma State.
Is Avery Anderson an upgrade as a shot maker?
So I'm trying to sell it from their view. I'm with you. And obviously Mike Miles is no longer on this team. And we knew how important he was when healthy last season. And they lost kind of their interior beast and heartbeat, and Eddie Lampkin, he's gone. Chuck O'Bannon back, Emmanuel Miller back, Micah Peavy, Coles, Cork. So it's basically remnants of last year's core still there, but lost a good chunk of that. I don't know. I'm torn, I guess.
Yeah, I think losing Miles and Baugh are big. I think TCU is still very, very good.
Huge.
TCU is very good. I actually have them 6. I'm above K-State and Texas Tech for just by a smidge. But Nelson and Anderson, they're not a bad replacement. They're not as good though as Miles and Baugh. The wing combination I think is the most exciting part of the team. You mentioned it: O'Banner, Miller, Peavy, Coles. That's like 6'6" through 6'8" of 4 guys you can just rotate in and out. The defense is still going to be pretty darn good. And I like Ernest Uday coming in from Kansas. This guy was like a borderline 5-star recruit, right? Taking Lampkin's place. Cork played pretty well when Lampkin was out. The coaching is there. The style is there. So it's not last year's team, Jim, but I'm not doubting Jamie Dixon. I still like TCU this year.
That's the style's my question, because like he really hit the gas last year because he had 2 awesome guards who loved pushing in transition, and it kind of kept them out of half court stalling because they didn't have a lot of spacing, and it's just kind of a barrage of the rim. Are they going to stay at that pace with Nelson and Anderson, both of whom kind of played at middling tempos last year? I'm curious. I think that's something I'll keep an eye on really early in the year. But yeah, the defense is going to be excellent. A lot of versatile pieces, switchable. Dixon's a great defensive coach. Anderson comes from good defenses. So I think they're going to be just fine on that end. Could be a little bit of hiccup ridden on offense, Matt, but if they can continue to get out in transition and get on the offensive glass to keep the floor high there, then that's the key for them.
I just think that Dixon did something that so many coaches should do, is you have a very long interchangeable type of roster that can get up and down and run and score with length and leaping ability. That's what he weaponized. You don't need to sit and play 30 seconds in the half court if you don't have to. And you look at their Big 12 splits, number 1 in the league in 2-point percentage, field goal percentage, number 6 overall offense, right? Good, not great, but still far better than it could have been if they just sat there, especially without Miles, man. They were really rough in the half court at times, just could not make anything from the outside. Coaches, take note, do more of that. If you have some speed and have some depth, run, get easy ones. Why play against a set defense if you don't have to? I digress. We move on to Oklahoma State. Talk about Avery Anderson. And I know you guys raised an eyebrow when I mentioned his name. So how do you feel about this backcourt without Avery Anderson is my question, Jim, because I'm a little concerned, if I'm going to be honest. Mike Boynton, I think, is underrated. Javon Small was awesome last year. East Carolina when healthy. Do we think he is ready to be the guy this year for Oklahoma State? It seems like he has to be, along with Bryce Thompson, who I've seen enough of and just think he's a fine and kind of a neutral, nothing burger type off guard. Sorry, Bryce. And then John Michael Wright, who is John Michael Wright. I don't know,
Ouch.
Jim. I feel lackluster vibes about this team.
Yeah, I mean, this team desperately lacked shot making last year, and I just don't feel that they fixed it. I saw some Boynton quotes about how Javon Small helps in that department, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he's solid. He's more of a distributor, get in the lane, draw defenses type of guy. And Jarius Hicklin's probably your shooter, but he played in a weird ass defense at North Florida and is not going to be a fit on that end for them here in the Big 12. So how many minutes does he really end up with? And then up front, man, Kai, that was like the big thing they could always lean on. Cisse dominating the paint. Boone was awesome in there. They had some pretty solid perimeter defenders. It's a little more questionable. They've got super high upside with Miranda and with Daly Jr. coming in, who played for USA this offseason. Garrison's a pretty highly rated recruit, but it's just not quite as certain in there. And yeah, I'm a little lower on Oklahoma State. I have them 10th. I'm shaky with that. Actually, I have them 11th. Excuse me.
I almost went 13th with them just to tease. Go ahead, Kai.
Yeah, I disagree. I guess I think Boynton has a pretty high floor. I mean, he's been 33 through 59 5 times out of his 6 years as a coach in KenPom. And maybe you could argue this team's not as talented, but I don't know if Miranda hits top 50 guy, arguably. And Jen mentioned Daly and the transfers. Yeah, I'm not sure what I think about Small. I think Marsh can definitely be a factor in the Big 12 as a big guy. He was super underrated at Jacksonville.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not a big Hicklin guy. I think Jim's right. Like North Florida is kind of a weird system to come from. But I like Wright and Thompson as holdovers from last year's team. I just think it's a typical scrappy Oklahoma State squad that holds its own. That'll be on the border of the tournament, 7-11, whatever, however many games the Big 12 plays this year, and just kind of be on the bubble again like he always is.
It's a deep program building freshman class. I think he has 4 stars, like 50 to 100 range or something. So I think there's going to be a lot of those guys that will be inserted here. I think if we're wrong in Oklahoma State, me and Jim, I guess if we're more of the down dudes, is Javon Small really Boynton compared him to Cade Cunningham in terms of like leader and like infectious vibes and personality makes guy. I was kind of sold by it, but I was like, Cade Cunningham is doing things for the league right now. I don't know if Javon Small
Cunningham's got like 5-6 inches on him too.
Anyway,
helps.
Yeah, and also what
East Carolina wasn't exactly blowing the doors off people with Javon Small leading their offense. So
yeah. So I don't know. That's where I'm like, if we're wrong, it's because Javon Small just rocks. But I'm going to hold my breath until I see it there. We continue to one of my little pet babies in this league, Cincinnati, the Bearcats, Wes Miller, retooled roster. I think to the naked eye, kind of looks like a lot of pieces cobbled together. The big thing with them is they're waiting on 2 huge waivers with Aziz Bandago and Jimo Reynolds from Temple. Aziz being the absolute stud shot blocker who could really be a game changer if he is cleared. Miller was very frustrated with that in the Big 12 Media Day stuff. But yeah, they got Simus Lukosius, my guy from Butler, who can do it all.
Yeah.
No, he's good.
I like him a lot, but
CJ Frederick, who is going to turn 30 in a month. And I mean, say what you want about him. When healthy, he's effective. They have the number of top 5 JUCO lead guard, Day Thomas. They have the Loch Ness Monster, James Boy. They got John Newman back from injury, the defensive glue guy. I just like the team. I think it's deep, and I think it's going to be like we talk about the same type of stuff with Texas Tech, lots of really solid players. I see the same type of makeup here, Kai, with the Bearcats.
I mean, I love Miller, and I really wanted to like Cincinnati, but the waiver stuff really hurts. Like Bandago and Reynolds, their waivers got denied. So he's appealing, you guys said in our group chat. If they're not in, like, that's huge for their depth. Lock-in is still there, and Aguama, that's a decent front court. They're just not much behind them now without those two guys. And Reynolds is super versatile. I think he's a little bit underrated. And you're relying on
Agree.
Albeit top 5 JUCO guy to play point guard. They're not a guarantee. We know that firsthand. Lukosius can really play, but does he know how to win? He did not at Butler, and he did not get along with the other guards on that team. And Frederick, is he a top option? I don't think so, really. I think he's a pretty solid shooter. I just don't think it's quite up to snuff compared to other Big 12 teams. A good team nationally, but I think still towards the bottom of the Big 12.
Yeah, sorry, this is Timmy real quick. Welcome to Big 12 point guards. You're going up against Tyrese Hunter, Taman Lipsey, DeJuan Harris. Just awesome on-ball defenders. Yeah, it's just going to be
Toussaint
tough.
is a good on-ball defender too.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of questions. Like I think this is a wide range of outcomes kind of team based on the way some of these transfers fit, their health. Like Frederick just hasn't been able to stay on the floor for years. And then, Bandego, Reynolds. You look at last year, they were 337th in free throw rate, 343rd in rim frequency. Cincinnati was like, they just didn't get easy baskets either. I feel like I've said that about a ton of teams in the Big 12, and it's not going to get any easier against Big 12 defenses. I think Cincinnati could struggle in that department. And without Bandego just completely dominating the rim on defense, they might not be strong enough on that end either. I'm a little skeptical here, Matt. I want to like him, but I think a lot of things have to break right for them to be as good as they can be.
Yeah, maybe I'm just seeing the rosy outcome in all these certain dimensions here.
Where'd you peg him in the standings?
Like I'm 7th.
Yeah, that's way. I just can't see it.
I also have them 10th, like Rob.
I got him 12th.
I think they're better than TCU. I think they're better than Iowa State, and I'm probably wrong on those two things.
What?
Sorry. Yeah,
even without those guys.
Sorry.
Board bet.
I'm board bet immediately.
Either of
Goodness
those
gracious.
Goodness gracious. Bandego was part of my reason why I haven't been in Iowa State. So assuming the status quo holds, Kai, as you mentioned, sorry, I was saying that it might be approved. Miller was like emphatically confident be approved. So I will retune my assumption that he will not play. And based on that, it's hard for me to pick them over Iowa State. I do happen to think they are better than TCU still.
Yeah,
so
I'll board bet that. I'll take TCU
in a second. Absolutely.
Yep.
I'll take TCU minus 10 spots.
No, just
Kai, don't give stuff away, Kai. Come on.
I'm just saying
we're not doing conference because it's not a equally scheduled, equally balanced league.
Let's just do it. Who cares? Why is it?
Right, sure.
I'm taking the worst team.
They'll finish ahead.
The worst team.
They'll finish ahead.
Yeah, we'll take the worst team. All right, shake hands. Done. Let's go Bear Kittens.
I don't get it. I don't understand. Are they even better than last year?
I'm not convinced. The guys they lost were really good and effective for them last year, and they brought in some shaky,
whatever.
Not sure how versatile. Yeah.
I like Lukosius. I think he's good. Anyway, we move forward.
You like him too much.
I do probably.
Julius better.
I didn't think he was that great. That's a whole other thing. Anyway, we move forward. Landers now is a huge loss. Anyway, I digress. We're going to Oklahoma, back to the Boomer Sooner State to talk about the Sooners, Jim. And I want to say the same narrative applies to these Sooners that did last year. Porter Moser, since he's taken the Oklahoma job last couple of years recently, just the talent looks like a bunch of mid-major all-stars. And it does again this year with only Uzan being the notable returner. They bring in the likes of a Siena transfer, J.V. McCollum, Utah Valley transfer, all very good, and LaTrey Delhart. Jelon Moore from Georgia Tech. That team didn't win anything last year. John Hughley, who was basically, let's be honest, let's call it, the Pittsburgh was better without him. And then they bring in Soros from Oregon, who's a wild card. Like this roster, Porter, what are we doing with this, man?
Yeah, we just got a report from Johnny Rothstein as we recorded that Luke Northweather is pushing for a starting spot, 3-star recruit that redshirted last year. This is the least compelling team in the league for me. I just don't have a whole ton of interest in them. I don't think they brought in a bunch of tantalizing talent via the portal. They're solid. Porter Moser is the epitome of solid as a coach, Kai. 30th, 54th the last couple of years at this level. I think they're down in that like 50 to 60th range and just kind of an okay team that I don't think has a ton of like mind-blowing upside for me.
Northweather's bro, see the Truman transfer to Indiana State, something like that. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Moser's a hell of a coach. He can do more with less and compete. See the Alabama dismantling last season. But yeah, the roster talent, Matt, it's like he's not really even trying that hard in the portal. It's kind of like, or he's trying to like say, I don't want stars on my team.
Look, let me show you. I'll take these kind of has-been castaways and I'm going to do 'something with those guys. Yeah, exactly. I
love the guy, but it's like, yikes, man. You need he's 12-24 in the Big 12, 2 years, but he's 30th and 54th in KenPom. his teams aren't
Good league.
bad. It's
Good
just a
league.
really, really good league. And Uzan's a stud. There's too much turnover, though. And the transfers you mentioned, I'm not convinced they're great. Hey, Hughley was pretty dominant when he was actually locked in at Pitt, but I'm not sure he's going to be locked in, and I'm not sure he's, better than a lot of these big guys in the Big 12. And Sora is just a huge disappointment at Oregon. That guy was supposed to be awesome, and he just wasn't. So, yeah, again, the roster's just not there for me for Oklahoma, Matt. Even though it might be better than last year's. Maybe.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think so. I think last year's roster is probably better.
Reminder that this team took Alabama to the absolute woodshed and then took them back there again. Yeah. Beat K-State by like 15, Iowa State by, again, Big 12's tough, man. At home, Oklahoma can have some moments, and Porter Moser can coach. So this will be, I think a team that's below 500 for sure in the Big 12, but they're going to win probably 6 home games because they're at home and they're going to catch a tired and weary Big 12 team walking in there, and they're going to get outcoached and outplayed that game. So, and we like Milos. Milos is good. Maybe Rob.
I think he's really
good.
Gonna be good. I think he's really good.
Yeah, I like Milos.
Yeah.
Matt, does it surprise you that at a certain odds maker, Oklahoma is by far the least likely to win the league? They're 125 to 1. 13th place is UCF at 60 to 1. Like, the odds makers are saying Oklahoma's going to stink.
Does not surprise me. I can see that. I just think that's a overly roster point of view and kind of ignores Moser as a coach. And while I think UCF is fine, we'll talk about them here in a second, I don't think that's.
I don't know how odds makers really make these lines.
I couldn't believe Oklahoma was like
that low. I know
they're 10th in KenPom.
They just have no ceiling. That's probably have no ceiling. So like UCF, you could argue has a higher ceiling. Maybe I don't know if I wouldn't argue that, but come on, Porter, battle for me this year. All right, to country roads we take to West Virginia. I mean, where to begin with the whole offseason timeline? I can kind of hit the bullet points on what transpired. So Bob Huggins is no longer coaching this team, for those who may or may not know. Replaced by, I'm already forgetting his name.
Josh Eilert.
Josh Eilert. Thank you. Who I really like, by the way, like really much impressed in all the Big 12 Media Day stuff and what he's been saying. The problem is that his roster is just very, very volatile. You have Kirk Kriisa, who, most people think was sort of a Ewing theory guy at Arizona. You bring in a Cook, who is talented, but
I disagree with those people.
If he's healthy and he's consistent, he's sure. And then Quinn Zielinski from Iona, who I think can be good. Now, Jesse Edwards could be a stud. Syracuse he could probably be their best player. Retained Seth Wilson, Kobe Johnson, but they also lost, as you mentioned, Noah Firecan is sitting out this year. Raekwon Battle got his waiver denied. Jose Perez came to town and then didn't stay there.
Silverio might not get his waiver.
And Silverio also on the fence on his waiver as well. It just seems like no one knows who's playing when when all the cards are settled, Kai.
And is a Cook a grad? I thought
Cook's a grad.
He's a grad.
I think he's confirmed. I thought he's confirmed.
So you're looking at 10 to 11 scholarship guys.
And they're changing the offense. I already said they're doing this whole, they're trying to change the offense this year too. So I don't, a lot of to me.
Yeah. I like Eilert too, but he's still a brand new head coach and the Huggins situation's tough. And I like Kriisa and Cook and Edwards, Slazinski's whatever, but I'm not sure it can mesh this quickly with all the turmoil happening, the waiver in and out. Imagine practice, like expecting these guys to be eligible, like Battle. Now all of a sudden he's not. I think that kind of throws wrenches into stuff. So the returners have some upside. I like some of the guys like Kobe Johnson, Seth Wilson, but to me, this is the last place team. I have them below UCF even.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, Kai, and I'm coming around to that take as well. I just think there are some nightmare situations here where no one meshes. And Kriisa, I think, had like the highest turnover rate of a high major starter or something. Like he was bad with his ball control and his shot selection, obviously a little bit erratic as well. Cook's coming from a horrible team. Jesse Edwards coming from a not very good team.
Cook's never actually been good.
Yeah, he's like a lot of hype that hasn't matched the production and the team impact. And then you're relying on some bit guys, Seth Wilson, Kobe Johnson, Josiah Harris, Pet Swimnick, that didn't make any impact last year at all. I'm worried. Eilert's really got to make moves here, Matthew, because other than Edwards, the roster isn't super exciting to me.
Yeah. So Kriisa had turnover issues in the Pac-12, as I'll kind of regurgitate the same point I made last team. Yeah, Jamal Shedd will be guarding you this year. DeJuan Harris will be guarding you this year. Taman Lipsey will guard you this year. Tyrese Hunter will guard you this year. Darius Johnson will guard you this year.
Krisa's an MFer, man. He didn't get. He's going to be able to play.
I like his mentality, sure,
His
but like I just don't think he's
swag-
good enough. I think he's low. He needs some shake. He needs some
Last
wiggle
4
to
games
then
of
out
the year,
wiggle.
he averaged 15 total points, 3 points against Princeton, 4
Was
turnovers.
hurt. He was hurt.
He was really
got a
hurt.
little-
He's a
yeah,
winner. He's a point guard of 2 top 10 teams.
The winner is Tommy Lloyd in Arizona. The winner is not Kirk Creaser. That's my take. I love Kerr. I hope he
Just
does
saying.
well, but I'm just saying
He's
I
not
think,
coming from Butler where he was
fair.
loquacious, right?
Ooh, I almost threw up a who'd you rather have Kerr or Lukosius?
Kerr Kriisa.
It's
million
I
close
think
for
I'd
me.
rather
I'm
have
sorry.
Kriisa. Yep.
Okay, it's close
million
for me.
times.
I might go Simmons. Yeah, so West Virginia, who knows? Going to be a fun team to track. I think there could be some fun moments, but also some explosively poor moments as well.
Yeah, they're
Let's
going to
head
be hard to
west.
peg and annoying to bet on. Good point.
Yeah, I have them as like the number one. Do not bet on this team. Why would you do that? So for those out there wagering on or against this team, you're a degenerate. Anyway, to BYU, Mark Pope and the Stormin' Mormons. They talked a lot about, even last year and into the Big 12 Media Day this season, like they've really been like gearing up for this move. Like they hired a couple like analytics dudes. Like they've been really trying to understand what rosters are going to work in the Big 12. So I don't know if like last year was like a throwaway year, like a petri dish year of like getting ready for this, but maybe that's how Mark Pope's framing it. But I think people are right to criticize me for being exceedingly high on Mark Pope and BYU, who realistically have not been as awesome as we thought they would be since they were the 13, or they were going to be like a top 3 seed in the 2020 tournament that got canceled. They were the 6th seed, one and done 2021, and then they went 9-6, 7-9 last year's WCC, finishing below 500 in the WCC. And I love this team, Jim, but like it does feel like a leap of faith to be like, oh yeah, I like this team a lot to compete in a league where they coming out of a league they didn't really do as well last year. I don't know. I'm at a crossroads is my point.
Yeah, I don't think they really figured out their identity last year, especially with who was the primary creator with Rudy Williams and Dallin Hall kind of going back and forth a little bit. Trying to play through the paint, but not having success there. And they weren't as bad as that 7-9 indicates that they were in the WCC. They were still a top 80 team per advanced analytics. I think they're massively undervalued as a 13th team here, Kai. They're loaded with shooting. Ali Khalifa adds a huge passing element to the front court. You play him high-low with Traore. I think that makes a lot of sense. Trevin Nell is healthy, another shooter. Dawson Baker, another shooter. Like they have a ton of shooting. I think the offense could be real potent again with the way that Pope kind of spreads it out. He ran a lot of continuity ball screen stuff back in that 1920 season.
Yeah, how are they getting those shots, Jimbo? That's my concern. How are they getting the shots?
Well, it's the system, good, and Dallin Hall kind of figured he stabilized a little bit. He didn't start the final 4 games, but he stabilized things quite a bit at point guard. And he was a freshman. Like he's freshman guards have lots of hiccups. So I think they're definitely undervalued here. And I'm sure people look at what they did last year and say that's crazy, Kai, but BYU is a team that I'm much higher on than Rob.
Oh, I think Rob, for on the whole, his Big 12 rankings are pretty defensible. I think he got this one completely wrong. I got him 10, which is much higher than 13. We consider who they're leaping over. I really like this team,
so
which is more defensible than Cincy, I think, to be honest. They return a ton. They were really young last year. Now they're experienced. 4 starters are back. Trevin Nell matters, and he's back, as Jim mentioned. Khalifa and Baker is a pretty nice 1-2 transfer punch. Baker's shooting. Khalifa does a bit of everything. So 8 guys in total are back last year, got double-digit minutes. I still believe in Pope as a coach. I think Traore has a lot of upside still. And Hall, sophomore point guard, he has ability. Shooting is going to be a huge strength for this team. Again, one more time, Pope is a good coach. Yeah, I definitely think they finish higher than 13.
I love Pope. I just still, and again, Hall and Johnson was hurt last year too. So like, I think there's a ton of reason to be excited about this team. And they brought in, Quace Glover, who ended up doing the old Simpson gif, walk in and walk out the door. Feel like there's a little bit of like maybe you're right, but I think Pope, kind of why he brought in Rudy Williams last year, I think he knows he needs a little bit of a pace at that point position. And I just think they still kind of lack it. And they really haven't had it since they had, TJ Haas was, dynamo, and Barcelo was just a maestro. Like, I think they're missing that kind of elite level creator, which kind of makes everything fall in place. But hey, maybe they play a little more inside out this year. I don't know. Tough to say. I like the team too. I feel like you guys love the team. So
I feel like that team, I'm looking back, Matt, that team 2 years ago, like they were a lot better than where they finished in Kem Pom.
I agree. They had a lot of,
they handle a lot of teams. They've been hurt. They were hurt last year too. They had 8 starting lineups last year. Like, I think Pope had a little injury issues to go along.
And that was an awesome 2022 was like the WCC peak. So
they still won 24 games and they beat
20,
some good teams.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just think it's in the context of I have high like Pope as like a top 25 perennial team with that program. But again, maybe I'm just being a little too rich. Let's head all the way east to Orlando, Disney World celebration, retirement community of the world. Kind of a sleepy team to talk about, if I'm being honest. Just offensively is like, I don't really want to even go down what this team has or doesn't have, I should say. But there's some athletes for sure. CJ Walker's still hanging around this roster, as is Darius Johnson. So those kind of your 1-2 returners. And then the other 7 players are all transfers. And they're all good transfers, just not great transfers. Jalen Sellers from Ball State, Shamari Allen, UMKC, Omar Payne from Jacksonville. We like the Jacksonville bigs, do we not? DeMar Langford from Boston College.
Yeah, Payne's a little
Diallo from San Jose State was an awesome. I mean, there's dudes here. I can see why now you have them over who? You have 13th, I assume?
Yeah, I got him 13 over West Virginia.
Okay. I buy that.
They're clearly a bottom tier Big 12 team. And Johnny Dawkins, by far the worst coach in the conference, like not even close. Eilert.
Depends how you feel about Eilert. Yeah.
But those two guys, like, it's like a waterfall between the next best coach in the league, in my opinion. I like Johnson Walker coming back. Good returners. The transfers, though, for me are just kind of whatever. Like Sellers and Allen are good mid-major scorers. I'm not sure they're Big 12 players. Payne's just a bruiser. I mean, the guy's not.
He's also
skilled.
Very dirty.
He's a dirty player. He couldn't get on the floor for Illinois. I don't really see him as a big deal. The other guys are meh. Defensively, in theory, though, this should be a really good team defensively. The offense, though, Jim, seems like it's going to struggle.
Yeah, I think they can play the way Dawkins has succeeded, which is lean into the defense with a lot of athleticism, switchability. Johnson's the only real small guy in the rotation, which I think helps. And yeah, it's just, can you score enough points to be competitive? Them and BYU have the weird, like, we're so far off the beaten path of the Big 12 that, like, does that help them or hurt them with the travel edges / disadvantages when they go on the road? Kind of hard to figure there, but I feel pretty comfortable this team is landing between 70 and 100, and just that's like the range for them, Matt. Like fairly lowish floor, high ceiling, not that great.
Yeah,
this is high floor, low ceiling.
This is a team that I think should adopt the Jamie Dixon model, which I think there's hints that he might. Like, you don't really have a lot of pure skill shooting. Get out and run and like use your defense and to get quick offense going the other way. Don't bog yourself down. Like, you don't have Taco Fall to protect anymore and like play a slow. I mean, you can get out and gallop if you want to. And yeah, Taylor Hendricks, like, hard to underscore how awesome that guy was last year. Like, not just as like a shooter, but like rebounder. Just did everything. And lifted that team, which could have been, kind of a pedestrian squad into like a very good team again, a top 100 team. So tough piece to replace. And yeah, Kai mentioned Dawkins first rest of league in terms of coaching prowess. Yeah. I have nothing further to say on UCF. Sorry, Knights. Big 12's good. Welcome to the war. I'll say.
Really good. Best conference in the country.
I agree. Number of teams making the dance out of 14.
9. I'm saying 9. I mean, they were getting 7 sometimes when they had 10.
7 last year. Could have had 8. Shit, yeah.
That's the right number.
Depth is right. Like, you go 7 and 11 in this league, you have a chance. And a lot of teams will go 7, 11, 8 and 10, 9 and 9. You're going to be really good out of conference. Not a lot of bad losses to be picked up in the league. I'm going with 9, Mr. McEwen.
9. 9's the right answer. They could get 10, but I think 9.
I'll go 9. Whatever. F it.
Could get 8
I'm with
too.
you.
if the newbies besides Houston don't live up to our lofty expectations, I'll say.
Yeah, I think the middle of the conference will kind of be the swing piece, right? I think there is some downside there in the middle. But again, Big 12, it's still Big 12. So that's all we have to discuss. Wow, longer preview for usually Big 12 is a short sweep, but we went all the way to 14.
Next year more.
We look forward to listening to Jimbo on call it our little sister podcast.
No, don't reveal it. Come on, Matt. So it'll be a fun surprise for the folks.
Anyway, stay tuned for that, and then stay tuned for our final preview for the Power Conferences next week. No, we're done with those. We're doing All-Americans.
All-Americans,
awards,
futures,
maybe some futures.
Yeah. What is next week's date?
Insert other topic that you can tell us on Twitter.
That'll be the last podcast before
creators.
The tip off of the season. That's very exciting.
Before it begins.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Dig in. I know it's getting a little hectic here behind the scenes, but hey, thank you for joining us. Those who did come back and join us next week and then stay with us all season. That's all we have. Toodles.